me a call at 866-87-SMITH. That's 866-877-6484. Hey, y'all, I'm getting ready to talk to my very first guest. I'm so excited about this one, y'all. What's up, everybody? I told you guys I'm so excited. I'm starting to interview people on season 2, and I'm so glad to have my very first guest on this particular episode 9 of So What We Not Gonna Do, the original 90's voicemail podcast. I'm talking to Gia Banks. She's an LA native who has made great strides as an actress, dancer, performer, model, and transgender activist. Now, in 2019, on International Women's Day, she was named the Pioneer Woman of the Year by the LA City Council and was presented by Council President Herb Wesson himself for her efforts in bringing awareness to and fighting for gender equality. She's a legend in the ballroom scene, winning trophies and building a name for herself on stages from LA to NYC. And you can catch Gia dancing and entertaining on many main stages and also putting on her corporate hat as a community engager for equal rights for women of trans experience. Now, most recently, Gia can be found acting in the role of Agent Inferno on Ragnar, the Guardian of the Crystal, a film centered around a gay comic hero, y'all.
Hey, listener, you landed at the right place at the right time. You are now listening to So What We Not Gonna Do, the original 90's voicemail podcast by
Give Gia Banks a warm welcome to the show. Hey, Gia, how's it going?
Hey, Smith. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure. We've been talking about this for so long, and we are finally able to make it happen.
Full circle moment. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you know, I met you back in 2004, shortly after I moved back to Los Angeles, and you then and even now, you know, you're a very well-known entertainer. Y'all got to go check her out on Instagram if you don't know already. She's tall, beautiful, statuesque, but there's one thing, Gia, that's always stood about me, and that's how kind you are. You're very kind and warm and like a human-centered person. So I wanted to ask you, why is that so important for you to remain that way? And then, you know, working in entertainment, sometimes artists and entertainers, they kind of lose that humility aspect. How do you stay focused on that?
Realistically, I think it has a lot to do with my upbringing. The fact that my support system has kind of remained the same. Just the fact that my mother strategically instilled in me at a very early age, you know, to be positive, to greet people with a smile.
Yeah.
It's okay to acknowledge someone before they acknowledge you in a social setting, you know, and I think a lot of times people get so caught up and hung up on being introverted in social settings that it makes it so much more difficult to engage in conversation and create dialogue, especially when people are so insecure with themselves that the first thing they think to themselves is, let me pick my phone up and get on my phone, you know, to create that middle playing field. So strategically for me, growing up on the West Coast, being a Los Angeles native, I just strategically tried to make sure that, you know, everyone feels welcome, included, and, you know, ultimately that they're having a really good time.
And you know, you do that. And you know what? You do that very, very well. You said something really important. Thank you. You're very welcome. You said something important about, you know, having your mother there and instilling some roots in you with that. And I think that's so important. Tell our listeners a little bit about your story. How was life growing up on the West Coast and coming to terms that, you know, my life is meant to be lived as a woman of trans experience? How were you supported by family and friends during that transition?
I was truly privileged in that aspect of getting that support and that love and that unconditional love. I think is the most important factor. Growing up in the West LA area, I mean, we all have our trials and tribulations growing up. You know, realistically, I know it was different. I came out at a very early age. I was 14. I was varsity. I was cheerleading in high school, which was already kind of cutting corners, and I would more so say being more so like a trendsetter, because at that time we hadn't had any boy cheerleaders.
Right.
So it was like the talk of the town. Like it was almost like urban legend, urban myth Like, the fact that I was one of the first at that time, it was not only unheard of, but it was a little bit of out of the pocket, out of the shell.
Did you realize at that time that you were pioneering something different, or just doing what you wanted?
Yep, that's it. I've kind of always been that person to just do whatever makes me happy.
Yeah.
You know, and I commend my mom, and I truly appreciate her. Well, both of my parents, honestly. My dad is deceased now, but they had always instilled in me to do what makes me happy. And I think that's one thing that I feel like a lot of the community is missing out on, is the parents supporting their children and whatever decision they decide to make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And realistically, I do have, you know, the authenticity to basically state that we can also have a great experience, you know what I mean? And it doesn't necessarily have to be all of the cons that they predict or necessarily have created these stigmas, you know what I mean? And
I definitely do.
So sad that, you know, we're looked at in that such negative light, you know, and for me, it's great to experience the opposite. So I'm just trying to expose a little bit more of that, if that makes sense.
So do you feel like with you being so supported and so helped, it kind of put a mantle on your heart that I want to help those be understood who are not as supported as I was? Do you feel like that weight? Okay.
Absolutely, because there was a gray area, you know, from I would want to say like maybe 16 and 19. There was a gray area in my transition because, and when I mean gray area, you know, strategically we have black and we have a white, but there's that middle playing field where you're confused, you're conflicted, you don't know whether you're up or down, right or left, chicken or dog, you know what I mean?
So Gia, take me there. Let's go to 16-year-old Gia. It's one thing to say, okay, I know I'm different. It's one thing to say, okay, I got the support, but take me back to when you said, this is who I am. I'm locking in. I got it. What was that eureka moment like where this is my journey?
It was more so, I wouldn't say 16. 16, I was still unsure of myself.
Mm-hmm.
It was way too early. But 17 and a half, I graduated from Westchester Senior High School. And that's when I had the opportunity to really like sit back and really find out, you know, what was it that was unsettling in my life. Mm-hmm. And
what did you think it was at that time? Like, did you have any?
At that time, I just thought I was really, really gay. Mm-hmm. You know, at that time, I thought I was really, really gay. But then I started playing in drag. I started performing in West Hollywood. And then my friend circle changed as well, you know what I mean? And just my experience with homosexuality changed. You know, I started getting more intuitive and in tune with the female figure and the women of trans experience that were, you know, brought up in the older generation, like Ebony Lane and Ariel Carrington and Stacey Spencer and Christina DeLucci and Lola Smiley, and realistically, also Shea Ebony and Divine Line Van. Those were people that have kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say fuck it, yeah, they show me the way, you know what I mean? And realistically, those are the women that have been pioneers on the West Coast, you know what I mean? And realistically, those are the people that I started seeing. I started seeing them out performing, being house mothers, and that's when I started keying into my difference, you know, and my different, and what made me unique, and what I wanted, you know what I mean? And I wanted more. I wanted what they were receiving, you know, that light and those roses. Yeah.
And speaking of that light and those roses, a lot of the women that you mentioned, like they were and are very known figures on the ballroom scene. And, you know, coming into LA and scoping out the layout of the land, people have always mentioned Gia as killing the ballroom scene. And I've gotten to witness you and your magic on that stage, baby. But how did you come into the ballroom scene and just work your way up those ranks? Like, what does it mean to you? And then how did you get in there and make people know who Gia is?
Well, realistically, I have to give all my love and respect to Big Trey, Father Saint Laurent.
Shout out to Trey.
Was one of the first people to pull me to the side and take his time with me and really be hands-on. And initially, I was gonna vogue, and it was just something that it just took a little bit more out of me. Being coming from a dance background, it just wasn't what I anticipated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I was initially supposed to walk that, and then I think one time we were practicing voguing, and then a runway beat came on, and I started walking runway, and he was like, that's it right there. So realistically, he was so hands-on with me the first 2 years. He just kind of we had like a boot camp. It was like real intense and real serious, but I got that structure and that cattiness out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the fact that he was so hands-on with me. So the first 3 years of my ballroom career, it was really intense. Just being the fact that I was very sensitive at the time. I was young. I was naive. I was very, very hungry for the attention, especially because I'm a performer, so I love the attention, So at that time, it was kind of like all new and fresh and really exciting.
How did you deal with handling with all of that you just said, like handling rejection, so not getting your votes or not getting the win? How did you process that at your young age?
That was the pro of it, because I came in winning. I didn't have to start dealing with that until like maybe 3 or 4 years later, because it was like I had dominated my category, and then a new generation, a new sea of kids come in, and then that's when you have more competition is created, and then sometimes it's sad to say, but in ballroom, some people want to see you lose. They see you on this winning streak, and they're like, who's gonna beat her? Who's gonna top her? You know what I mean? So that, dealing with that rejection part of it, I think was trying at one point, but it wasn't as more difficult than transitioning in ballroom, because when you're transitioning in ballroom, you're ridiculed. You're not only being looked at. And
by transitioning, for our listeners, you're saying when you're becoming into your trans experience, as far as explain transitioning for those who may not know.
Okay, transitioning as in you start your hormone therapy. You start gaining weight, you get emotional, you get breast implants, or you get castration, which is where they, snip. But basically, you start going through the trials and tribulations of being in that cocoon, going from caterpillar to butterfly.
So you got all your personal stuff you got going on where you're changing, and now you're on the competition scale, so it's a lot going on internally, externally, right?
Yeah, realistically, that was really one of the trying times for me to try to find that happy place. And I think where I messed up on that was becoming a house mother too soon.
Now, what house, talk to the listeners about what house were you involved in? What ballroom house that got lucky enough to get Gia?
Okay, so initially I was involved in the House of Rodeo, the legendary House of Rodeo. Then from there I became an Allure. I was in the legendary House of Allure. Then I left that house and became a Garçon. From Garçon, I became a mother on the West Coast of the chapter of Garçon here. And I wasn't ready. I was not ready. I didn't know what I was getting. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how many kids I was going to be nurturing and looking after and leading. And it was just a lot more of a bite that I couldn't chew all of. And I just was overwhelmed, you know what I mean? And I just strategically became a trophy wife in that house, and I regretted it, because going into the house of Ms. Rahi, which I was the mother of for 3 years, which was a great experience for me because I actually took the initiative to be a leader. I took the initiative to create marketing in a brand and something that I strategically believed in.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which was so interesting to see grow. You know what I mean? So I was definitely more satisfied with leaving Garcon and going into Mizrahi and being more strategic with being hands-on with my children and actually taking the initiative to create a different narrative. So leaving Mizrahi, I am now West Coast Mother Tishi, which is a great experience. So far, so good.
Congratulations.
We're a boutique house. Thank you, babe. We're a boutique house, so we're a lot smaller, which I appreciate. There's not so many members. We're way more exclusive, and personally, I love exclusivity more than anything else. You know, I feel like there should be one person walking a category and winning, period, you know, and that's usually a Tishi, duh. So that's my place with Ballroom now, you know what I'm saying?
Talk to me about the switching of houses. How is that? What's the transition like? Is that a respect thing? Are they happy? Do you still engage with those from the last house? How does that work when the houses have been switched?
Realistically, there's a downfall to it as well because you can be considered a house hopper after leaving 3 and 4 houses, but when you're not being strategic and you're just kind of like going through the motions and going through the flow of things, sometimes that happens. Being loyal to certain people in Ballroom, you kind of want to stick with them and not necessarily follow them, but stay with them. You know what I mean? Especially when you find a group of people that are in your corner that support you, not only in Ballroom, but in real life, in certain situations to where it's like I have performances, I have birthday celebrations, I have plays, and video shoots and stuff like that. And that's when other people that are not just house members, but also family members that are supportive enough to be there when I call on them. So strategically for me, that's what's important. That creates validation. So you're damn right, I'm going to stick with the people that
Of course.
So I think that's in Ballroom, one of my best advice to people that are entering in Ballroom is to make sure to find a group of people that are going to support you and that are going to be 100% behind you throughout your life.
Yeah, because it's a family. It's a family,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So once you went in, you dominated the Ballroom field, you're continuously growing there and still being a leader there. How did you shift Gia the brand into entertainment, as the performer and as being booked and being this mogul that you're building yourself to be? What was that shift like?
That shift was interesting, especially because as an entertainer, I always put that first. Being that I've been a dancer for more than most of my life, I've enjoyed that more than anything else. And the last 3 years of being a performer and entertainer, I decided to switch my narrative up a little bit. I had been kind of all over the place with artists and performing their music, and I had been pushed to do my own music for a little while. And I'm not a singer, I'm not a rapper. I mean, I do get the gimmicks, but I have a lot of humility, and for me, being a vocalist is not something that I want to be looked at as an artist.
I understand that.
I don't take myself serious when I'm singing, so I don't expect anybody else to. But as a dancer, as an actress, as a model, you better believe this is not a game.
So basically, you're finding the lanes where your power places of impact are, and you're putting your energy into those.
Yes.
But as far as the biz, it's one thing I can definitely see that being the next transition. After entertaining the world through Ballroom, it's like, okay, well, let's get Hollywood's attention. But how are you latching on to getting their attention? Like you're getting booked as an entertainer at a lot of different places. Like, how are they knowing about you, and how are you shifting, becoming the business side of Gia?
The shift, honestly, came this year, really. or excuse me, this past year, I initially was doing Sierra, back in 2014. But I was so hung up on, like, I don't want to be an impersonator. I don't want to be an impersonator. I don't want to be stuck in a box. You know what I mean? But I needed to create that flashlight dynamic, if that makes sense. I needed someone to really pay attention to my artistry.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to be a vessel and create that dynamic of just exposing something that is a part of you, but through someone else, if that makes sense.
You know what? I'm gonna pause you right there, because that's a wise thing you just said. That sometimes what I heard was, I don't feel like impersonating somebody else. I worked this time to become Gia. But sometimes in order to convey the message that Gia gotta bring, she may have to do it through the form of somebody else and just using that as a vessel. Is that what I heard you say?
You're absolutely right, friend.
That's powerful to me, because as a messenger, knowing that your way, you being the front, you being on the billboard, even though it's you, it's the vesselship of it, taking yourself on as a vessel. I love that. I love that. And I hope you listeners, you caught that. But I definitely, I understand what you're saying, and you definitely are. I love the way your brand has even changed and evolved even since I've known you, and you're doing really well with that. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit something a little bit personal. I want to talk to you about dating as a trans woman. What is that experience like? Do you assume everybody knows that you're trans? Do you find people that, like, what is that like? How have your past relationships been?
Oh my God, dating in general, I think is a chore. And dating in 2020 is realistically an obligation. And for me, I personally feel like it's become an obligation and more of a hurdle, because I'm so career driven, because I'm so independent, because I actually have dealt with a lot of past experiences with men in a negative light. You know, my mother, as a young person, my mother kind of had guys around us pretty often. You know, not necessarily guys in and out, but there was a guy every 3 or 4 years. And understanding that how men are disposable and how they visualize trans women, is really difficult for me to get over certain hurdles. You know?
So let's talk about, for people who, I will say over the last 3 or probably 4 or 5 years, I have a few friends, you being one, that are women of trans experience. So I've gotten to know a little bit more of the struggles and the dealings of how life goes from day to day, you know? So tell the listeners, like, how can sometimes, just give a simple example of how you meet a guy you like, or a guy that's trying to come up to you, holla at you. Like, what are the difficulties in relaying who you are to that person, the assumptions that you think they may have, or you hope that, just tell me how that is. It's Friday night, you're at the bar, and bam, someone comes up. What is that like? What is that for you like?
Realistically, okay.
Not someone that now, not the areas you normally go, not where everybody knows your name. I ain't talking about that Cheers where everybody know your name. I'm talking about you out on vacation in Jamaica getting your Stella.
Okay. I've personally allowed people to meet me first, to meet Gia.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it goes any other further place, then that's when I need to explain to them who I am and where I come from and my background. But initially, I don't feel like everyone needs to know that immediately, because I'm not. To me, I feel like you need to know that if I'm gonna lay down with you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
If I potentially feel like there's a place where we need to go, you need to know that. But if we're not going to that specific place, then why do I need to tell you about my private. That's my private area. It's
Agreed.
private.
Agreed.
And I feel like a lot of people get so hung up on labels a lot of the times that they kind of forget to have some sort of privacy. You know, some people are vulnerable too soon. And I'm just not one of those people. You know what I mean? Like, I have grown up a lot with transitioning and experiencing, you know, parts of my transition where it's like there's that gray area of being out somewhere and a guy may not know, you know, and I've said it too soon. And there's also been moments where I've said it too late. You know what I mean? But being more strategic and being more wise and mature now, I understand that it's okay to meet someone out in a social setting. Now, this is different. Now, if a guy is sought out to see you and you guys have met on like a social media platform or something like that, yeah, he needs to know up front. You know what I'm saying? But if I meet you out in a public place and we're just hanging out for a second, hey, we're talking, we exchange numbers, then I need to take the initiative to let you know X, Y, and Z. But if we're just having casual conversation, no, you don't need to know what's going on, you know?
Do you feel like, I do know, and I do agree with you on that.
All right.
Do you feel like that you carry... Okay, so that piece of information, this is who I am, whatever that entails. Do you feel like knowing that you're going to have that conversation with a person of interest at some point, do you carry, I don't even want to say the word carry because I don't want to do you hold that as something like a mantle, like, I know I'm going to have to do this, or do you hold it as a crown where it's like, yeah, and when I'm ready, I'll share with them more details? Do you hold it as something that, how do you feel about that conversation piece?
It's a gift and a curse. It's a gift and a curse. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, we are unicorns. You know what I mean? We are the, in certain cases, the forbidden fruit. You know what I mean? And I hate to put us in that plateau or platform, as you say. You know, like, yeah, it is a great place to be in certain experiences, but sometimes you just want to just go out on a date with someone and not have to justify or explain or prove, or if that makes sense, yourself.
Makes a lot of sense.
Someone. Yeah, because it's like strategically, there's a lot of guys that pursue me. You know what I'm saying? But realistically, I know as soon as I tell them the circumstances or the reality of things, they get in their feelings and they get in their emotions and their insecurities and they run. And for me, it's really the black man that is that person the most. And that has everything to do with our stigmas, our education, our validation, and our advocating, because it's not visible in a place to where and I mean, no, kudos to all my sisters, Laverne Cox, Amaya Scott, Trace Lissette, that are actresses that are strategically visible, but we don't have any visibility as far as like a wife or a lover or someone that is strategically dated. You know what I mean? We are women of trans experiences that have been exposed in certain lights, but not all of them. And I'm ready to see us as wives, as mothers, as nurses, as doctors, as presidents, because we deserve to be those people, because we are people, and not only are we good people, but great people.
And you know what? You said something very important, and I think that there's others who support you in that vision of seeing women in women of trans experience in roles, like you said, as wives and in leadership roles. And one of those people who believed in you in that way was the city council president, who in 2019 named you Pioneer Woman of the Year award for the whole city of Los Angeles. That was major.
Oh my God. I mean, when I hear it, I'm like, that was for me. But
that was major. I mean, and I'm not talking about trans woman of the year. I'm saying Gia Banks was named the 2019 Woman Pioneer of the Year for the City of Los Angeles by the President of the City Council. So when you got that news,
the first.
the first, y'all. You know, history was made. So when that historical moment happened for you, tell me where you were. When you got the call, when you got the email, what was you doing?
I got the call. I was in rehearsal at the time, actually, and I had to call my girl Jasmine back. And at first when she called me, I was like, no way, you're right, you're kidding, no way.
Wow.
And then 2 days later, she called me back with the email, and she was telling me about the plaques I was going to receive, and I had to be up in hair and makeup at 6:30 in the morning to be there at 10:30. And
that thing got real, didn't it?
It got so real, friend. I was like, oh my God, this is really freaking happening. And I'm so blessed. And on top of that, I'm just so happy that my mother was able to be there and to share that moment with her. It's just like, really, that's the pioneer woman.
Yeah. Now, when you got that good news and you chewed on that, like, what did that mean for you as far as, like, now it's time to do what now, you know?
Yeah, you know, and within that year time, I feel like it was for me to be productive and do my networking and footwork, because I have some great projects, obviously, that I can't discuss all of them. But, you know, strategically, I felt like it was my time to do the footwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a good start. I promise. That was a really good start for me, because I didn't realize that the people are watching. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
And sometimes you're on social media and you're just doing things out of fun, and you don't realize that people are really watching. Like, those numbers really mean something sometimes.
Yes, they do.
And I've just been trying to be more strategic with what I present to the world, because I know that I'm under a magnifying glass, especially with this platform that I received last year. It was just, I mean, I still, like, I'm like, wow.
That's amazing.
What makes it such a big deal is because realistically, I know a lot of my sisters are out here trying to be the first, you know, because we don't have very many lanes in every aspect, you know, and strategically, it is kind of become a hurdle for us to be included, you know, and right now it's usually just one of us. So to be the first is a really big deal. And to be the first in this way, you know,
yeah, for where you're from. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So speaking of All Eyes on You, I got a listener hit me up in my DM talking about all eyes being on Hollywood based on the fact, I'm just going to read you what she says. She says, I'm gay and I have an issue with Hollywood. She said, there's so many shows on TV now that showcase LGBT characters, and they often do it in a very stereotypical way, or they do so without seeking people from the community to be a part of these projects. It feels like Hollywood is often a culture vulture machine that steals from us and never credits back, or not in the way it should. So I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts about that conversation, about Hollywood being a culture vulture of, trans women of trans experience, or the ballroom scene, or the LGBT scene? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I can't agree more, and I think that comes into great play with me saying, you know, the stigmas that have been created and the formula that needs to change, especially the narrative. I just was able to catch Love and Hip Hop last night. Miami, the new 2 episodes, I guess, that are out. Mm-hmm. And it sucked to me on the first episode. There's a scene where Bobby likes and another one of, I think it's Trina's assistant or another homosexual is on the show, and basically they're like, you know, at Trick Daddy's barbecue or whatever, and they're the 2 queens are the ones that are like creating the messy dialogue, and I just feel like somebody's got to change the narrative. You know, like, it just comes back into play, like, why are they using them as pawns, you know? And it's just like, we gotta do better as a whole, and that just goes into production, that goes into talking about the direction and the directors of the production, you know what I mean? And it all has everything to do with humility, you know, and what level you'll go to humiliate yourself to get $1.
Say that.
To get recognized in Hollywood. And there's so much clout chasing going on in this day and age, to where it's like you really don't have to have a lot of talent. It's all about who you know at this point.
Quite often.
And and I try to keep that. You know, I try to keep my humility as much as possible. Just understanding that even with Pose and Ballroom being so hot right now, and the fact that people know I act is, you know, you should be on Pose, or you should be doing this, and you should be doing that. And it's just like, what's for me is meant for me. And God has a plan for me, and He has great things in store that are for me. And
so do you feel, let's talk about that. So like when projects like that come out, as a woman of trans experience who's, like, we talked about your amazing journey, even from the ages of 16 to now, and the entertainment and the ballroom scene and what all you've invested into this culture and community, you know, when you see people who, you know, may even just be actresses that are not even of trans experience, or, you know, when you see like somebody who maybe they just came out, or because whatever reason, you know, do you sometimes feel looked over? I don't really want to say that they looked over, or that they don't deserve it, based on like, I've been here, I'm a true pioneer here, and from the entertainment arena.
I do have those moments, you know what I mean? But what makes me understand that it's not my time, and my time is coming, and what's meant for me is meant for me, is my support system, my family. You know, a shout out to Big Trey, shout out to Michelle and Carlisha, and my best friends Ronald and Lauren and Dominic for India.
I love y'all relationship. I love y'all relationship.
Being there, you know what I mean? And my vulnerability and my weak moments, because I'm a human, you know what I mean?
Yes,
sometimes it's so difficult to see people come from behind you and get in front of you.
I get that,
you know what I'm saying? That's the hardest part. But what I understand is what is for me is for me. You know what I'm saying? And full circle moment, I can't wait to talk about Agent Inferno.
Oh, baby, we ain't got to wait another moment. I'm ready. Speaking of what's for you is for you. You are playing Agent Inferno in this super dope, brand new LGBT comic superhero film. Tell me about that.
It's just full circle, friend. I did a Shirt Sweep Film Festival 3 months ago. I was like, you know what? This is for me. I need to really take the initiative to act.
Yes.
Because there is a place for me there. And I don't want to necessarily say it's on Pose. I don't want to say it's on, you know, something that's already been created. You know what I mean? It's something out there that's gonna be written for me. And I'm just waiting on that, you know. So strategically, I'm acting. I'm in class. I'm also doing short plays to also
That's awesome.
Perfect my craft, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So after doing this Short Sweet Film Festival, my brother Milan Christopher reached out to me. He was like, I have a great character that I've kind of written around you and your narrative and your storyline, and will you be a part of this project? And I was like, you know what? This is perfect opportunity for me to expose and showcase my acting skills. On top of that,
tell me a little bit about the character and like her role in the film. Give the listeners a little overview. You can't. Okay.
You guys will see in episode 2.
Okay, good.
About me.
More to come.
But in the episode, but realistically, I can give you a little bit of that story. Basically, she was beaten up by her father at a really early age, and she ran away to actually, better herself, get her life together, whatever, what have you. Lola Monroe, Lady Inferno, becomes her mother, takes her under her wing, and she nurtures her superpowers and creates this revenge, evil perspective. And I think that's, I personally was a little apprehensive at first to expose that portion.
Which portion? The revenge portion?
Because realistically, I feel like that's where your transition comes from. It comes from not only from a place of vulnerability, but also resentment. Because you're doubted, you're questioned, you're told you can't do it over and over and over. And I think that's what creates the drive and the passion behind your transition. So emulating that, I instilled that in the character, and I can't wait for you guys to see. It's going to be so good. We go back into filming in late March. And if this is prompt 2, you guys, please make sure that you go out and check the audition dates if you're interested in joining the cast, because he's got about, I think, 15 or 16 more characters that he's creating, and he's
awesome.
Looking for a lot of talented artists. So if you get the opportunity or the chance to get online and audition, please do, because we definitely need plenty more characters.
And then going back to our conversation about people who may or may not culture vulture in Hollywood, it's pretty dope that Milan Christopher is providing dope positive opportunities for people in the LGBT community who can shine. And you're definitely doing just that. So you guys, you can go over to Gia's page or Milan Christopher's page. They have all the cities. I believe they're going to be going to like 9 cities looking for people. Who is the next superhero, you guys? So if you got that in you, head on over there. Now, Gia, I gotta ask you something, because this is a show centered around the 90s. So before you head on out, I gotta ask this age-old question. Which was your favorite performer, Brandy or Monica?
Oh, Brandy.
Brandy was your favorite?
Still. Yeah.
What was one of your favorite Brandy songs?
That's my daughter. That's my girl. That's my sister. That's my friend.
Yes.
I love her to pieces on a personal level. Even throughout my I'm getting all emotional. Even though throughout my transition, that is one person that has influenced me to do what makes me happy and to love myself unconditionally. And I can.
Tell us how has she influenced you to do that? Tell us that.
She was a living testimony for me. Brandy had a really dark, gray area where she was in a really bad car accident, and people ridiculed her. They criticized her for about, I would want to say, maybe almost 10 years. And throughout that time, I was really tight and close with her at that time. My best friend was also one of her PAs, one of her best friends as well. So I would be over there with her weekly, you know what I mean? And just getting some of that positive light and that positive influence on a consistent basis was what I needed through my transition, especially being the fact that she's a mega superstar.
Yes, she is.
That's the vocal Bible, you know what I mean? And strategically, so many people look up to her in so many different aspects and outlets in life, you know what I mean? And that's just really, I really wanted that, to absorb that from her, because she's so amazing. She's so spiritual and influential, and I feel like a lot of the hang up was that little frivolous, childish, immature mistake, you know what I mean? Because accidents happen, and I just feel like they had to pin it on someone, and they really wanted to just drag her through the mud because she was of status, and that was the only reason, and she didn't deserve that at all. So, big shout out to my big sis Brand. I love her to
Shout out to Brandy. That's the powerful thing about music, when it meets you where you are, it just has such a dope impact. So Gia, thank you so much. It was such a blast just talking with you here on the podcast. Tell the folks where they can find you at online.
Okay, well, you guys can find me on Instagram at Gotta, Gotta Lovegia. That's Gotta Love Gia. My email is the same, as well as Facebook, I'm Gia Banks. And Twitter, that's the Spot. That's the G spot.
Hey.
And Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think that's it. Anything else? I mean, y'all can't have my cell phone.
I hear that. Thank you so much, Gia. We appreciate you tuning in, y'all. And guess what? Because Gia mentioned the fact that Brandy, and I definitely agree, she is the vocal Bible, we're going to cut to Brandy for our next music break, y'all. Come on, y'all. Go follow Gia and let's get into our next thing. Gia was spot on when she called Brandy the vocal Bible. It's only proper we turn to her for our next music break. When Brandy dropped Never Say Never June 9th of 1998, the title track soon became one of my faves. Rodney Jerkins and Brandy proved once again they were not a production team to be played with, y'all. Vibe out for a minute to our next music break. Brandy, Never Say Never.
Stop trying to get the best of me.
Shout out again to Gia Banks taking the time out to come talk to us here on So What We Not Gonna Do podcast. Wasn't that a great conversation, y'all?
It's only entertainment.
Ooh, sock it to me like you want to. Ooh, I can take it like a pro, you know. Do a long throw with the backstroke. My hormones jumping like a disco. I be popping ish like some Crisco. And all you gotta say is miss it go. And when you say go, I won't move slow. Sock it to me. Ooh, sock it to me like you want me to. Ooh, I can take it like a pro, you know. Do a long throw with the backstroke. My hormones jumping like a disco. I be popping mess like some Crisco. All you gotta say is miss it go. But when you say go, I won't move slow. No. So I decided to go, swing it in my direction. I'll be out of control. Let's take it to perfection. Just you and me. Let's see if you can bring the nasty out of me. Suck it, ooh, suck it to me like you done it too. I can take it like a pro,